face ill treatment by your party. You might get a committee demotion. You might forego a potential place in cabinet. There might be a negative media story or attacks on you on Twitter. The worst that could happen to you in this country if you take a stand on a point of principle is you might lose your career. You might not have an opportunity to continue as a member of Parliament. And sometimes, there's no doubt about it, that these disincentives can be decisive for politicians in our country. But in other parts of the world, and particularly as we reflect on Pakistan, politicians like Shahbaz Bhatti, like Salman Taseer and others, took on causes that they knew could, and in fact knew, in some cases probably knew would, cost them their very lives. People weren't just threatening them with a spot on a committee that wasn't desirable. They were threatening them with death, and yet they fearlessly, relentlessly stood up for what was right, stood up for persecuted minorities, and stood up for their principles. I think it's worth reflecting as well when we talk about Pakistan that we in Canada here, we have a wonderful, tolerant and pluralistic society. And it's important to know that Pakistan had a long history of tolerance, of pluralism, of religious diversity. They were doing it long before we even existed as a country. My wife's family are Pakistani, and it's been interesting for me listening to her grandmother talk about what a lovely childhood she had, and what a welcoming, pluralistic place Pakistan was. And in some sense, we are standing on the shoulders of giants here. It's a pluralistic country, looking at pluralistic traditions of the past, but then also seeing those historic giants of pluralism and tolerance now stumbling, and the real struggles in Pakistan. So as we talk about these issues, we can call Pakistan back to remembering that history. I also wanted to reflect a little bit on Shahbaz's personal faith, Shahbaz's Christian faith, and how it motivated him to stand up for the rights of all people. Here's from a video that what he said about his faith. He said, "I am leading this campaign against this Sharia law for the abolishment of blasphemy laws and speaking for the oppressed and marginalized, persecuted Christians and other minorities. These Taliban threaten me, but I want to share that I believe in Jesus Christ, who has given his whole life for us. I know what is the meaning of cross, and I am following the cross, and I am ready to die for a cause. I am living for my community and suffering people, and I will die to defend their rights." Shahbaz was moved by his Christian faith to fight for the rights of all people, and to understand that offering his life for others was the greatest good, not something to be feared or even avoided. From time to time, we have a discussion in this place and elsewhere about the place of faith in politics. And there's no doubt that faith can, in some cases, be a motivation to evil, but it can also be a powerful motivation for good. Again, Shahbaz didn't just fight for his community. He fought for all people, and he was motivated by that strong personal faith, that strong commitment to principle that he had. Now, we're honored to have a number of representatives of other parties, and it's great to see strong support for honoring and remembering the legacy of Shahbaz Bhatti and continuing with promoting religious freedom. We're honored to have strong support and representation from all parties today. So I'm pleased to first welcome up Cheryl Hardcastle to share a few words.
Thank you. I'm honored to represent the NDP at this event to commemorate the assassination of a prominent human rights defender and Pakistan's first federal minister for minorities affairs, and that's Shahbaz Bhatti. While I did not know Shahbaz Bhatti, one of my staffers was able to meet him when he came to Ottawa on February 17th in 2011. And my staffer was profoundly impacted by the motivation and the compassion that Shahbaz entailed. Shahbaz spoke before the House of Commons Subcommittee for International Human Rights. The meeting was held in camera that day. No notes were formally taken. This had to be done due to the numerous threats against his life. In fact, a mere 13 days later, Shahbaz Bhatti was assassinated. As the NDP's newest member to the Subcommittee for International Human Rights, it is a great honor for me to be a part of the parliamentary body that hosts human rights defenders of Mr. Bhatti's caliber. While Mr. Bhatti was, like myself, a Catholic, what I found most admirable about him was his impressive interfaith work. He was one of the founders of the All Pakistan Minorities Alliance, a nationwide coalition of representatives of the various religious minorities and civil society groups in Pakistan. This alliance succeeded in convincing the government to replace the separate electoral system described by some as religious apartheid, under which religious minorities could vote only for candidates of their own faith. He also spearheaded the organization of a national interfaith consultation in July 2010, which brought together senior religious leaders of all faiths from across Pakistan and resulted in a joint declaration against terrorism. I wish we could say that circumstances have improved in Pakistan since Mr. Bhatti's assassination, but they have not. In fact, you could say that the situation has worsened. We still do not know what the fate is to be for the imprisoned Asia Bibi, whose life Bhatti championed, ultimately at the cost of his own. As well, as some of you will know, Mumtaz Qadri was recently hanged for the assassination of the Liberal governor of Punjab, Salman Taseer. Mr. Taseer, like Mr. Bhatti, was a prominent critic of his country's anti-blasphemy laws. Well, nearly 100,000 people attended this assassin's funeral or participated in demonstrations of his support for him, in support of assassination, in support of anti-blasphemy laws. As The Economist magazine and others have noted, these were dark times indeed for Pakistan. This is why I think it is so important and it's so impressive that Peter Bhatti carries on his brother's important work. I'm going to get choked up. To put one's life on the line for so great a cause is the highest possible calling, and I salute you for it. To pay homage to Shahbaz Bhatti, let us all resolve to promote interfaith harmony and support Pakistan on its journey toward being a just and pluralistic society. Peter, myself, and the NDP wish you great success in these efforts, and we'll keep in your brother always in our hearts. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I'll just set some Kleenexes on the podium because I know this is such a challenging topic to reflect on. I'm very honored to welcome someone who, I know a number of us new members of Parliament have a passion for these issues, but we've got someone who's been, from the Liberal side, who's been very active on these kinds of issues for a long time. So very pleased to have with us Judy Scrow and to welcome her.
Thank you very much. I didn't plan to speak. I think that the Bhatti family and I have been friends for 20 years, I guess. And when I was the Minister of Citizenship and Immigration, I have to tell you, we did a lot of work together. I just wish we'd have done more, but we did a lot. And Minister Bhatti, when he came and visited Ottawa, was an idealist. He really thought, that we would all continue to be a voice for the voiceless. And that one way or another, Pakistan would resort back to a pluralistic society. But more importantly, I guess, having these reunions is a motivator. And, I don't want to be standing here 5 years from now, still knowing that the blasphemy laws in Pakistan are still there. And Mr. Bennett, I'm pleased to say that, you're here, and maybe I just get too angry, but it's just been going on for so long. It's so unacceptable. And so I don't want to come here 5 years from now and talk about Minister Bhatti and how wonderful he was, and still have these blasphemy laws in Pakistan. So I guess Cheryl spoke so well and so passionately, and I'm moving the clock and saying, let's get to work and figure out what we're going to do so that we don't lose more innocent people who simply want to be able to practice their religion, whatever that is, in this world of ours. And so as I'm calling on all of you to work with all of us, that we can't just say, well, we'll be here next year for another reunion. There's much more to be done. And I applaud Peter and his wonderful family and all of the others involved in this. But much more needs to be done. And I don't want to stay in office for another 30 years. I've been here quite a while. I want to see some action taken. And frankly, I don't intend to leave here until I know that we've done something significant on the blasphemy laws. However we do it.
I just want to thank you, Garnet, for doing this. When Shahbaz was assassinated, I had just had lunch with him about 10 days before when he was in Ottawa, and he profoundly affected me as a human being, as a United Church minister, as a person of faith, and we shared our faith and talked about life, and talked about the great risk that he felt returning to his country. And I remember calling Peter after I'd heard that he had died or been killed. And the strength that Peter and his family have and the leadership that you're still providing is something that we can learn from. So thank you for doing that. I echo Judy's comment that a memorial is an appropriate event, but action is more appropriate. And so we need to continue that work as parliamentarians and as committed people of every faith to recognize that life is precious and life is good and freedom is ours to be shared with the world. So thank you particularly, Garnet, for your work today.
Thank you very much, and that was Rob Oliphant as well, who has been involved with these issues for quite a while as well. Thank you, Rob. Very pleased now to welcome up someone who has really been at the forefront of advocacy on behalf of Pakistan's religious minorities, but also religious minorities around the world. Very pleased to have, I guess you're not official, technically, Your Excellency. I was going to say Your Excellency, but I can't call him that. But he is excellent in any event. So the not excellency, but certainly excellent Ambassador Andrew Bennett, the Ambassador for Religious Freedom. It'd be great to have you in the future.
Thanks very much, Garnet. When I come into my office each morning at Foreign Affairs, I'm greeted by Shahbaz. His photograph is there on my desk. And the position that I continue to hold is as a result of him. His witness, his fearless defense of religious minorities in Pakistan, Christians, Ahmadiyya Muslims, Shia Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, all those who have faced persecution, both through government restrictions, through social hostilities. His witness has tremendous longevity, and it will continue to have tremendous longevity. The situation, as you all know, in Pakistan is very, very difficult on two fronts. First of all, we still have draconian blasphemy laws, hateful laws against other minorities, including the Ahmadiyya Muslims in the Penal Code, that are present. And I agree with Ms. Scrope. It's a disgrace that they're still there. The challenge that we have is to encourage the Pakistani government continually to, first of all, ensure that the blasphemy laws are applied appropriately and not used to secure vendettas or in abusive ways. That's the first step. Then we work towards their dismantling and their abolition. We also need to work very closely with the Pakistanis to demonstrate that, yes, you have a pluralist society, like Canada, like the United States, like many countries where we're engaging on religious freedom. And that pluralism was the dream that pluralism be lived out fully in Pakistan. That was the dream of Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and a smiling Muslim who ensured that that white stripe on the Pakistani flag would mean something. And so that brings me to the second challenge in the case of Pakistan. As our former High Commissioner there, Greg Jokas, would fondly say to the Pakistanis, we are your friends. Canada is a friend of Pakistan. But the biggest challenge in Pakistan, in addition to draconian laws, government restrictions, social hostilities against different faith communities, is fear. Fear amongst institutions, fear amongst the leaders in Pakistan, fear amongst the judiciary in Pakistan. All of those who seek to bring about justice and to have rule of law, greater democracy, greater freedom, and greater respect for human rights in Pakistan. They labor under fear. Fear of extremism. Extremism from inside Pakistan, extremism from outside Pakistan. And so part of our role has to be to continue to engage the Pakistanis as fellow heirs of a tradition of common law, of parliamentary democracy, that can be a tremendous force for change. And so we've continued to engage the Pakistanis in many ways through my office and through our High Commission in Islamabad, through regular engagement with them, through continual engagement with our allies to challenge the Pakistanis to do more, to fight that fear. We issued a protest roughly a year ago, along with our allies in the United States, the United Kingdom, and several European countries, condemning the blasphemy laws, condemning the 40th anniversary of the Anti-Ahmadiyya laws and the Penal Code. We had 2 programs that are now just finishing up in Pakistan that have been very successful in trying to educate people around religious freedom, the importance of religious harmony, not just tolerance, but respect. Because Pakistan cannot progress socially, economically, culturally, politically, if its citizens are being marginalized, because they're not able to fully commit and to engage in that society. And so I certainly vow, through the work that our office is doing, to continue to engage and to keep the memory of Shahbaz Bhatti very much alive. And as a fellow Catholic, and for all of you here who are Catholics, I would encourage you to pray and seek his intercession, that his memory may be truly everlasting, and that his martyrdom will be an example tonight. Thank you very much. Thanks, Grant.
So in a moment, I'm going to welcome Peter up here, Peter Bhatti, to share some thoughts. And I thought after that, what would be a great step we could take today is just get a big picture of all of us who are here today to remember Shahbaz, from representatives from different parties, from the wider community, and putting that picture up just to send a strong message about who is here today to stand up for religious minorities in Pakistan and for honoring the legacy of Shahbaz Bhatti. Peter is someone who I've gotten to know over the last year and a half or so. Very strong and passionate advocate, along with his family, for these issues, and someone who has a great mind for these issues, but also such an evident heart for them as well. Peter, so good to have you with us, and come on up and share some words.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garner. Honorable MPs and most welcome guests. On behalf of my family and behalf of Martyr Shahbaz Bhatti and International Christian Voice Canada, I appreciate and honor your presence here to commemorate the life of my brother Shahbaz Bhatti. Thank you, Mr. Garner, for hosting this event and for carrying the legacy of Master Shahbaz Bhatti through your love for your human rights and your love for Pakistan. Shahbaz Bhatti was our youngest of my sibling. We were 5 brothers and we have 1 sister who is older than all, because Shahbaz was the youngest in family. He was easily the most loved. His full name is Martyr Shahbaz Bhatti, so all those who were close to him called him his nickname Cami. So in our home he was called not Shahbaz, not Clement, but Cami. Shahbaz Bhatti was born with the heart that was passionate to serve those around him. He was passionate to serve and honor his country. Growing up, as he learned the vision of founding father, Pakistan, Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, Shahbaz convinced that Jinnah's Pakistan should be fulfilled. Pakistan should be a place where all lived equally, regardless their caste, color, or creed. Shahbaz learned that his forefathers, along with his father himself, who fought in the war, served Pakistan as their country, and many gave up their life for it. After the death of Jinnah, dictator began to rule in Pakistan and introduce laws such as blasphemy law. Ever since, Pakistan has moved toward intolerance and equality. The gap between the minority and majority groups continue to increase, and extremist organizations are encouraged to persecute and discriminate the religious minorities of Pakistan. This is something Shahbaz could not tolerate, and he knew that there was something he must do to combat the intolerance growing in Pakistan. My dear friends, defending our human rights such as the freedom of religion is not an easy task. Defenders of human rights often have to pay a heavy price. Sometimes it costs you your life, as it did for my beloved brother Shahbaz Bhatti. When Shahbaz first really understood the sacrifice of Jesus Christ at 13 years old, he decided to follow his example and dedicate his entire life to liberate the oppressed, victimized, and vulnerable peoples of Pakistan from persecution, intolerance, discrimination, even if it cost him his life. After taking oath as a federal minister, he stated in the media that I, as a humble servant of the God, will continue to serve the suffering, victimized, and persecuted people of Pakistan. I am ready to even sacrifice my life to defend the principle of religious freedom, human equality, and the rights of vulnerable communities of Pakistan. When Shahbaz knew that he was going to die, he recorded a video with BBC and asked them to play that video after his assassination. In the video, he says, "These Taliban threaten me, but I want to share that I believe in Jesus Christ, who has given his own life for us. I know what is the meaning of cross, and I am following the cross, which he followed all the way till his breath." It was Shahbaz who founded the organization International Christian Voice in the year 2000. Shahbaz wanted from the ICV to have a platform which he can raise the plight of religious minorities of Pakistan on international stage. And he convinced me to help him with his mission abroad. Today, as I continue to be a chairman of ICV, I vow to continue the legacy of Shahbaz Bhatti and will continue to struggle for the Pakistan as Jinnah has envisioned. On February 7th and 8th, 2011, Shahbaz had chance to visit Ottawa as per invitation of Honorable Jason Kenney. And I was accompanied with him that time. On his trip, month before his assassination, he met many Canadian parliamentarians along with Honorable Prime Minister Stephen Harper. He met with the Canada to discuss the situation of religious minorities of Pakistan ever since he visited. The relationship between Canada and Pakistan has been strengthened. Canada is the champion of human rights, religious freedom, and democracy. We are proud to live in country and honor the religious freedom. We should never take this freedom for granted. Religious freedom and human rights is a key object in our Canadian foreign policy. The Office of Religious Freedom in Canada was established by the Conservative government through the inspiration of Martyr Shahbaz Bhatti. We need the Liberal government to continue to do this great work through this office to demonstrate the Canada's commitment to religious freedom. This is no matter of partisan politics, but an essential part of principled foreign policy. So let's work together, regardless of political difference, our background, or our faith. Let's work together, become a voice of voiceless people around the world. Let's work together to make a country like Pakistan as a great nation, so that those who have sacrificed their lives to see Pakistan prosper will not have died in vain. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you so much, Peter. They gave you standing ovations and they didn't have a choice. I guess now if we could take a picture and then we'll help yourself to some food. So those, especially members of Parliament, but if